All right, let's dive into a legal battle that really pitted a centuries-old religious custom against modern-day constitutional rights. This isn't just any court case. This is the story of the Triple Talaq judgment. And trust me, it was a genuine constitutional showdown. I mean, just think about that for a second. Can an entire marriage, a family, a whole life built together just end in the time it takes to say 3 simple words? Now, this wasn't some abstract hypothetical question. For many, it was a deeply personal reality, and it was the explosive issue at the very heart of one of India's most important court cases. So what are we talking about here? The practice is called Talaq-e-Biddat, but you probably know it as Triple Talaq. And the mechanism was, well, shockingly simple. A husband says the word talaq 3 times in a row, and poof, just like that, the marriage is considered over. Immediately, irrevocably. Okay, so let's get into the meat of it. What was the fundamental issue here? I mean, why did this specific practice end up before the highest court in the land? Let's break down the core of the problem. You see, the real issue wasn't divorce itself, but the way it could happen. The court used some pretty strong words to describe it, calling the practice capricious and whimsical. Imagine a marriage ending in a sudden fit of anger. No cooling off period, no chance for mediation, absolutely zero attempt at reconciliation. The marital bond could be snapped, instantly and completely, by just one person. And you know, an issue this personal doesn't just appear in court out of nowhere. It was thrust into the legal spotlight through a landmark challenge, a case that now carries the name of the woman who brought the petition, Shayara Bano. So here are the case details. It reached the Supreme Court of India in 2017. But I want you to look at that last detail, a 5-judge constitution bench. Now, that's a really big deal. That's not something that happens for just any case. It tells you that the court saw this as a fundamental question about the Constitution itself, one that needed its most senior judges to figure out. All right, so after months of intense arguments from all sides, we've reached the climax of this whole thing. The 5 judges came back with their final verdict, but it was anything but a simple, unanimous decision. 3-2. Just think about that for a second. The entire verdict came down to a single vote. This razor-thin majority shows you just how deeply divided the judges themselves were. I mean, they were grappling with this massive conflict between religious personal law and the constitutional guarantee of fundamental rights, and they came to totally different conclusions. But as close as it was, that 3-2 majority was all it took. In the end, the court handed down its final monumental verdict. The practice of Talaq-e-Biddat, or Triple Talaq, was officially declared unconstitutional. It was struck down. Okay, so we know what they decided, but the why is arguably even more important. How exactly did the majority build its argument? What was the legal logic that led them to strike down a practice that had been around for centuries? It really all came down to this head-on collision between 2 powerful ideas. On one side, you had the practice itself, which the judges found to be manifestly arbitrary, letting a marriage be broken completely on a whim. And on the other side, you have Article 14 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to equality. The majority's logic was that these 2 things simply could not coexist. The sheer arbitrariness of Triple Talaq was a direct violation of fundamental rights. And really, that's what it all boils down to. You can read the whole complex judgment, but all the reasoning from the majority leads to this one powerful phrase. The practice wasn't just unfair or undesirable, it was unconstitutional because it was violating Article 14 of the Constitution. End of story. So, a practice gets struck down, a case is closed. But what's the bigger picture here? Why are we still talking about this judgment so many years later? Let's take a look at its lasting impact. And this right here is the real legacy of the Shayara Bano case. It established a huge principle, that personal laws, the ones that govern things like marriage and divorce for different religious communities, are not above the Constitution. The judgment sent this incredibly clear message. When a personal law clashes with a fundamental right, the Constitution is going to win. And so, this entire constitutional showdown leaves us with this profound and, frankly, ongoing question. It's a question that courts and societies all over the world are still grappling with. Where exactly do you draw the line? Where does personal law end and the constitutional right to equality begin? The Triple Talaq judgment gave us one historic answer, but the debate it sparked is far, far from over.